comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia. Hi, my name's Joe Messa. I'm a lawyer, and I'm also a big football fan. I'm a 25-year Eagles season ticket holder, and there's a new postgame show in town. Welcome to the live postgame show with Derek Gunn, Mark Farzetta, Devin Caney, John McMullen, and the best right tackle in football, Lane Johnson.
Welcome in, everybody. Yeah, that sums it up. What's up, everybody? Mark Farzetta, Devin Caney, Derek Gunn with you here, 6abc.com, as well as the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Welcome in. Very disappointing 27-24 loss at the hands of the Los Angeles Chargers and Justin Herbert and Brandon Staley and them taking it to this Eagles team, at least when it comes to the defensive perspective. But before we just jump on that for a second, what did we say last week? We had to go after the cut and paste type of material. What could they do against the Lions that they could also do against this team in the LA Chargers? And what did they do? They ran the football. That was fun, right? We saw them run the football. Jalen Hurts threw the ball better in this game for the most part, and he had himself a great game, including that fourth quarter drive down the field. That was phenomenal what he was able to do there to lead the touchdown drive there with Devonta Smith capping it off. That was great to see. There's one thing they did, Gunner, in that Lions game that we did not see in this game. Any guesses, Gunner, Devin? Any guesses what that could have been in tonight's football game? What did they not do against the Chargers that they definitely did against the Lions?
Oh, they let a passing attack just bomb away. But see, you're talking about two vastly different array of talent. You're talking about a Detroit offense that was devoid of weapons compared to a Chargers offense that is deep with weapons, deep with prolific pass catchers, and a quarterback who's only in his second year, but has been groomed from day one to be a pass-happy quarterback. Basically, the baton was passed from Phillip Rivers to him in terms of how they're going to run that offense.
Definitely.
And that's exactly what we saw. You got to see a prolific passing game. This kid, Justin Herbert, there's a reason why he was drafted as high as he was. This kid is already of elite status, and he makes very few mistakes with the football. And what did he finish? I'm looking here, 32 of 38. 32. How many quarterbacks have we seen complete 75, 85, 88% of their passes against this Eagles defense? They didn't get any pressure. They got no pressure on him hardly whatsoever. And he just stood back there and he picked them apart. And I mean, if you're just a fan of watching football, and I know the Eagles fans are bummed right now, but if you're just a fan of watching football and watching offensive football, then you enjoyed watching offensive football. It was gut-wrenching from an Eagles fan point perspective because their team lost. But this is the kind of offense you hope you see run in Philadelphia. Probably not this year, but hopefully in the next year or two.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mark.
No, that's okay.
You say, this is what upsets Eagles fans, and I think a lot of people weren't expecting to win tonight. But I also will say I saw a lot of positivity, and I felt, again, it's not one of those games that you look at and you're super proud of, but it's also not like the game against the Raiders and some of our other games this season that just leave me feeling completely hopeless. I do feel like our team went out there and gave, I don't want to say 100%, but like 95%. I think Herbert was hot after having a few bad games. He was due to have a comeback, and it's unfortunate that comeback happened to happen tonight against the Eagles.
Yeah, but what you're going to see is this. Any team that can throw the football is going to have success against this Eagles defense. This is what you're going to see for the rest of the season. Now, moving forward, if you think about it, there's not another prolific passer on their schedule, except maybe Dak Prescott. And by the time they get to that game, the Dallas will probably have the division already wrapped up unless something devastating happens to that roster. But you look at the array of quarterbacks they're going to face from this point moving forward. The most prolific passer they're going to face is Teddy Bridgewater, who's a good quarterback. He's not at that upper echelon like a Patrick Mahomes or somebody like that. But, he can pick you apart if you don't get pressure on him. But beyond that, you've got the Jets, you've got the Redskins twice, you've got the Giants twice. So your chances are better against those teams coming up. But you better do something to patch up the back end. And we don't know how bad Darius Slay's hamstring is, so he could be out next week. And considering what Denver did today in Dallas, not just beat Dallas, but beat them down. They were up like 27-0 at one point in Dallas. Teddy Bridgewater looked like Joe Montana back there today. And now you got to go play them over there next week.
Well, whoever you're going to play from this point on, you're not going to win many games playing defense the way you did today. And Gunnar, to go back to your point for a second about, we knew we weren't going to face Jared Goff again today. We weren't going to see Jared Goff today. We were going to see Justin Herbert, who's, a rookie of the year type guy, right? He's very talented. You mentioned that they felt very confident saying, Phillip Rivers, thanks for everything. See you later. And Justin Herbert, it's his time to shine, which was good for him. However, if you continue to allow quarterbacks to sit in the pocket and feel not at all threatened by you attacking them, not blitzing them, you being just 100% devoted to just your defensive line, attempting to get pressure, most notably from your DN positions, which you saw none of today, and you didn't see hardly any. I saw maybe one blitz, and I don't even think it was a true blitz. I just think the tight end decided to stay in, and then you had, what's the new defensive back's name who actually came up with Slay and made a play at the goal line. But he got into the backfield to actually cause a little bit of a pressure, which Justin Herbert eluded and made a throw down the field 18 yards for 18 yards. But you had to continue to apply pressure occasionally in this game, not blitz every play. I'm not asking for Jim Johnson. This defense can't do that. But if you're a quarterback, and this was my concern going into this game, one concern was not realized. Nick Sirianni, great job sticking with the run game. Even when you're down in the fourth quarter, you had a very balanced attack. You were able to use play action. Jalen Hurts played like a man in that second half throughout. But the guy that didn't make any adjustments, the guy that didn't do anything taken from the Lions game to apply it to this game, even a little bit, was Jonathan Gannon. How do you not attack Justin Herbert? Not every play, but just make him think. Like, it's the same reason we say keep running the ball. Even if it's not working, make the defense think that you still could run the ball so you could sell a play action later. Same thing here when you're talking about being aggressive as a defense. You have to be able to go into a game like this with a game plan to make still, although very good, still a young and experienced quarterback, try to make him and force him into mistakes. I didn't see any of that. And no, I'm not expecting you're all of a sudden going to turn him to Jared Goff, but I'm also expecting maybe not turn him into Derek Carr 2.0 from 3 weeks ago. That was one of my biggest concerns going into this game. If you don't apply pressure to Justin Herbert, he'll sit back there and he'll pick you apart. He'll turn into what you saw with Derek Carr a couple of weeks ago, and that's exactly what happened tonight. That, for me tonight, the most disappointing thing was Jonathan Gannon's lack of aggression on this defense. I don't know how he played so well, made great play calls against the Lions, just in terms of philosophy, not even in terms of success, just in terms of philosophy, and didn't apply any of that tonight against the Chargers.
Well, you didn't have to be a great play caller against Detroit.
Right.
Your corners could play man up against Detroit because Detroit had no deep threats. They were playing with second-tier wide receivers. And behind a very patched-up offensive line with a quarterback who's running for his life. They had no running game whatsoever in that game. So you didn't have to be a great play caller. This was another case of Jonathan Gannon showing a quarterback too much respect to the point they lit you up again. You're right. And I've said this time and time again all week long leading up to this game. You cannot just let that man sit back there and pat the football and find his targets, because when he finds his targets, he's going to make you hurt. So Jonathan Gannon showed Justin Herbert way too much respect. Now, you go after him early on and give him something to think about. And even if you got burned early on in this game, at least Herbert's thinking that pressure could be coming from somewhere. But once Justin Herbert and the offensive coordinator figured out what the Eagles were going to do, it was like shooting ducks in a barrel, man. It was too easy. That man passed for 356?
356, 2 touchdowns, ran for another, yeah.
And most of it was effortless when you think about it. It was effortless. He was just slinging it all over the field. He completed passes basically to 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 different pass catchers in this game. Everybody got it on the front.
As a reminder, if we want to get even angrier about it, I believe the Chargers had not one, but 2 offensive linemen, 2 of their starters out. So we should have been able to get to Herbert a lot more than we did.
There you go.
And I also think it's ironic that, the constant defense of Jonathan Gannon's defensive scheme is, well, it stops the big plays. Well, what lost us this game? Our defense couldn't stop the big play. So it's not working clearly. And we keep doing it over and over again. I actually think my game ball last weekend after the Lions game was to Jonathan Gannon because I liked what he did. And it's mind blowing to me why we didn't see that again in a game against a good football team in the Chargers.
Let me say this. You know what? Good job, Nick Sirianni. Great job, Jalen Hurts. I didn't think I'd say that, especially with Nick Sirianni after this particular game, but here we are. Great job, Nick Sirianni. Great job, Jalen Hurts. I can't for the life of me figure out Jonathan Gannon. And in the early goings of this game, especially in that first half, you're seeing TJ Edwards make plays. This might have been TJ Edwards' best game ever as a Philadelphia Eagle. You're seeing guys like Davion Taylor make plays, Marcus Epps making plays. They're playing at the line of scrimmage. They're playing tough football. I was just waiting. It has to be a matter of time because those guys are being aggressive. Those guys are obviously amped up. Those guys were going to notch back-to-back wins for the first time this season. They want to win one game at the Link for the first time this season. Let's make that happen. And then you never saw that energy channeled to anything that related at all to pressure. There was nothing. There was nothing dialed up. There was no surprise. There was no safety blitz, corner blitz. There was no linebacker blitz. There was nobody rushing the line of scrimmage. You were just, hey, Javon Hargrave, please make a play again. Josh Sweat, please, we beg you, make a play again. Fletcher Cox, you know what? This one time, forget about the pass. Just go after the quarterback. Forget about the run, rather. Go after the quarterback. Make a play. We have to do something to upset the timing and the rhythm of Justin Herbert, and you didn't see that in this game. And you know what? For those big plays, Devin, that you mentioned, I'll give credit to Darius Slay for this. Was this his best game? No, and production is the bottom line, and he did not produce tonight. But he was right there, stride for stride down the field. He couldn't make the play on the ball, unfortunately. The other one with Parham, oh my God, that was just some freak mutant monster, just like palming Darius Slay's head and removing him from the picture. Other than that, he played tough, but he didn't play successful tonight. You really needed him to be the guy to make something happen. They made something happen at the goal line early in the game when they went for it on the 4th and goal. They didn't come up with it because he made a great play there. He was there stride for stride, but ultimately he didn't make the play. He had a pass interference call that I thought was some hand fighting, left the game with, I believe, a hamstring injury. But overall, I mean, you got to do something to try to upset the apple cart a little bit. And they didn't do anything. That I can't believe what I saw when I watched Nick Sirianni at the end of the first half run the ball 25 play. Well, they ran the ball 25 times. And on the other side of they only threw it nine times. But on the other side of the ball, you saw nothing that worked for you where you could throw your best effort in the face of the Chargers. There was not one time Jonathan Gannon looked at him and said, all right, you know what? Go ahead. You beat our best play. It was all reactionary every single time.
I think it shows you how little the Chargers respected the Eagles' defense when they went for fourth down situations twice. Now, the Eagles' defense held and turned the ball over and got it back to the offense. But early on in the game, when you go for it on 4th down like that, you're telling the opposition, we don't fear you in a lot of ways. And the fact that the Eagles' defense was able to keep the Chargers 3 for 6 in the red zone. The score could have been even more lopsided than it was, but they kept the Chargers 3 for 6 in the red zone. So the defensive personnel did make some stops in the game. They just couldn't make enough necessary stops, especially in the second half of the game. I mean, they were winded. Once Justin Herbert got in the rhythm in the passing game, you could tell this Eagles defense was winded, man. And it happens, just like the Chargers defense was winded with the way the Eagles were running the football. I mean, I never thought I would see this season, But Nick Sirianni has ran the ball now in back-to-back games, 85 times in back-to-back games. So the game plan was very accurate in terms of what he should do, run the football against the last-ranked defense in the National Football League. Now, granted, a lot of the yardage was picked up with Hurts being able to escape because the Chargers did blitz. The Chargers did blitz Hurts on a number of occasions in the second half. He was able to spin out of it and pick up big first downs for the team to keep drives alive, which led to touchdowns. But I don't know how many teams that are going to respect this Eagles defense. They're not going to play any more Detroits. They're going to play some teams that are hurting right now. I mean, hey, I thought the Giants were an automatic win. Who did the Giants beat today? First place Raiders?
That's who they beat. Yep.
They beat the first place Raiders, right? Mm-hmm. They held the first place Raiders, a very high scoring team, to 16 points in their backyard. Okay.
Yeah.
And they won that game. So now they're 3-5. They're right there with the Eagles now. Okay. So, that Giants game could be a little bit different. Washington is not a good team overall, but it's a division game. So Nick Sirianni and Jonathan Gannon have to. I'm tired of saying this. They have to keep going back to the drawing board and figuring out what is our identity going to be. Now, Nick Sirianni said leading up to this game, our personality could change week to week. No, your personality shouldn't change. Concepts change, but your program, whatever your program is, Tennessee is going to run the football. And you may make them pass a little bit more than they want to, but they're going to come at you and run the football, and they dare you to stop them from running the football. Teams like Kansas City, Tampa Bay, those are pass-first teams, and you have to make them come out of that. But that's their identity. We still don't know what the identity of this team is. We've seen them run the ball effectively against two of the worst run defenses in the National Football League. Now, when you get to Denver next week, you still have to try to run the football. Don't come out throwing the football and playing right into the opposition's hand, especially when you're on the road in a stadium where the air is a lot thinner. The game's going to be different. This Denver team is going to be jacked up because now they're that much closer to first place after a huge upset and win today. So, your identity right now over the last 8 days was run the football first, pass. I think Jalen Hurts is a much better quarterback after watching him these last two games, when he manages the offense instead of trying to be the offense.
Right.
Okay. Because of his athleticism. Now, he's not a great thrower. And I've said that time and time again. He's great in the intermediate passing game. I mean, he's a good passer in that regard, but he's not a great overall thrower. But he's a great athlete. And if you can establish this half of your game to take a lot of the pressure off of him in this half of the game, you have a much more effective Jalen Hurts and a much more effective Eagles offense.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I would joke about it saying that it felt like Buddy Ryan's offense for the longest time, where it was like, hey, Randall, go make a play. And that was the offense. That's what it felt like for the longest time with Nick Sirianni. It was like, hey, Jalen, just go keep making plays. But real quick on the defensive thing again that you were getting into, Gunner. And Devin, I don't know if you saw this as well from Jeff McClain. For the fifth time this season, fifth in the last 7 games, the Eagles defense allows an opposing quarterback to complete more than 80% of his passes. Justin Herbert, 32 of 38, 84.2% for 356 yards, 2 touchdowns. Birds fall in this game as well. Fifth time in 7 games?
Yes.
No bueno. No bueno.
I've never seen that before. I've never seen a defense allow a quarterback 5 times, let alone 2 times, but 5 times in the season, and you still have what? You're 3-6 now. So you have 8 games left to play, and it could happen again. And so 5 times within the first 9 games, quarterbacks have completed in excess of 80% of their passes against your defense. That's gotten people fired. Stuff like that gets people fired. So if this continues, I don't know if Jonathan Gannon will finish out the season.
Oh, no, that would shock me, quite frankly.
Well, what is, like, I don't want to say shocking, but surprising to me in terms of, I don't know the coaching dynamic, but I remember, I forget after what week it was when our defense, it was kind of like the realization game of like, wow, our defense really needs any type of scheme. And apparently Nick Sirianni spoke pretty firmly to Jonathan Gannon and told him to basically fix it. And if they're going back to the drawing board, like D-Gun, you say, and kind of creating a new personality, why it's mind-blowing to me what that conversation would have been going into this game, right? Because we did really well against Lions, and yes, it's the Lions. We've said that a million times, but also still the defensive scheme worked that time. We were aggressive. We owned the blitz more. And what the conversation was, where Jonathan Gannon's like, hey, you know what? Let's just go back to stopping the big play, to falling back, to letting letting Herbert just pass all over the field. It just is really frustrating to me. And I feel like every show we have a different coach that we're picking apart, and it's really usually Nick Sirianni or Jonathan Gannon. But Jonathan Gannon definitely deserves the criticism after this one.
You can't let these teams just walk up and down the field on you and hit you underneath. Because you have a lot of receivers. If you let them catch enough passes underneath, they're going to find a seam somewhere and take it to the house. You know, and you saw the route that Mike Williams ran across the field on that 49-yard reception. You know, he got past the cornerback, and Rodney McLeod thought he was going to break one way, and he broke the other way. Now you got him in one-on-one situation. First of all, great throw by Justin Herbert to put it where the DB couldn't get it, and an even greater catch by Mike Williams going down in the ground and picking that one off the turf to keep that drive alive. But you're gonna have to come out of this too deep shell stuff. You know, you're gonna have to ask your corners. Now, you have two corners in Darius Slay and Steve Nelson, who may not be considered perennial pro bowlers, but they're pretty good cornerbacks. And they're gonna have to come up and play more bump and run. You're gonna have to disrupt timing in passing games. They did absolutely nothing to disrupt the timing of the Chargers passing game. And if nothing else, mess up that rhythm so that a quarterback in certain situations may pat the ball just a little bit longer. It's amazing how we talk about this is a game of inches and it's a game of fraction of seconds. And sometimes that fraction of a second difference can be the difference between the ball being released from the quarterback's hand and the possibility of getting a quarterback sack. Mm-hmm. But basically, they just watched this man stand back there and just went back on their heels and just said, okay, my goodness, where's the next one coming? And all he did was spread you thin across the field. And then once Darius Slay went out of the game, that made it even easier pickings. You know, and for the life of me, I don't understand, Devin and Mark. I understand you're limited in personnel. I get it. But there are things you can do differently. You got to send, like Mark said, you got to send backers. So just take a chance. Send somebody. Maybe you'll get the quarterback blindside, swipe the ball out of his hand, get a fumble, change the momentum, anything. You've got to do something different. You don't think these coaches and players are smart enough after you get to past the first 15, 20 plays to understand what an opposition is trying to do to you on either side of the football? And you make adjustments. This guy, Gannon, doesn't make adjustments against better personnel. Your personnel is not good enough to match up against better personnel on the offensive side. So do something a little different. If it doesn't work in the first quarter, first 20-plus minutes of a game, you then have time to go back to what you know best. But at least don't just tell people, wave the flag, hey, this is what we're going to do, so you can just keep coming after us and we'll just see what happens. It doesn't work at this level.
Well, you mentioned Darius Slay. I want to go to a comment from Monkey Mind Bananas. He said, if we're watching Slay, that's literally his name. Verified source here. I have a point here because Deegan, I saw a tweet from you that it reminded me of, and I want to talk to you about it. He said, if we're watching Slay in a receiver's pocket and can't break anything up, but then Slay can't tackle, gets scored on, then he gets a holding penalty that keeps their drive alive. How is that on Gannon? I know you mentioned Slay, and we can talk about, how that is on Gannon, but I believe it was Slay tried to tackle someone up top, like 6'8", and you were like, why would you try to go for the legs, man? Right. So I want to get details and more of your opinion on that.
Okay, there's some validity to what that person said. Yeah, you're right. But first of all, you're talking Papa Warner football.
Hold on, Gunner. The man or lady's name is
Monkey
more Monkey Bananas or something. I don't know.
Monkey Bananas.
I'm trying to get past that, Mark. I'm trying. But
they have a good point. They bring up a good point.
I said Slay was there to make the play, just didn't make the play.
No. You're taught from Papa Warner high school, college football. When you're tackling a bigger person, you go down low. Now, Darius Slay is 6 foot, a couple 100 pounds. You're talking about a man who's 6'8", 240 pounds. Okay. Why would you try to tackle him up in his chest when he has a wingspan like a California condor? And sure enough, all he did was just push you off and walk into the end zone. That was Darius Slay's mistake. But leading up to that, what are they doing? They're giving him too much cushion underneath. Look at how many out routes that Justin Herbert hit on them because they were giving them 10, 12-yard cushions. So I go back to what my point was. If you come up and play them a little bit tighter, Justin Herbert is not throwing those rhythmic throws. 1, 2, 3, throw here. 1, 2, 3, throw there in the middle of the field. He's standing back there, and you may have to have him survey to a second and third receiver instead of going to his primary target because you got DBs playing bump and run against him. But because of the fact they did nothing to upset his rhythm, those kind of plays set up what happened in the play that was a touchdown to Parham. Mm-hmm. So monkey brains, whatever your name is. Thank you for your question.
I'm glad you said it, Devin. I'm glad. Thank you for tackling that one. Unlike Slay did. Hey-o. All right, that's enough. I do want to tell. I do. No. In all seriousness, there's one thing that we let down. Steven Nelson's penalty. You reminded me of this, Gunner. That was on a blitz. So the one time they blitzed,
they get a penalty.
He hit Justin Herbert too low. Now, we'll get into more on the defense. We'll also talk a little bit more about Jalen Hurts when we come back, because a little bit later in the show, we're going to be joined from the link. Our good friend John McMullen will be joining us from the link to break it all down and also let us know what Nick Sirianni had to say after this game, and also some of the players when Jalen Hurts addresses the media as well. But you are watching live post-game show, and it is presented by Ocean Casino Resort. Go for the live show. Go for the win. More live post-game show when we return.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the memories. Go for the view that goes on forever. Go for the bubbles in your bathtub and in your drink. Go to bed whenever you want. Or don't. Go for him. Go for her. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that. Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
The live post-game show is powered by IBEW Local 98.
Basketball is part of how we grew up in this city. And every morning, IBEW Local 98 members take their best shot, building this city, rescuing our community from decay, and inspiring the young men and women of the region to take pride in who we are, like the Hawks who will never die. Local 98 member, love tradition. John Doherty, business manager of Local 98, says it this way: the best way not to forget where you come from is to never leave.
Welcome back, live post-game show. Mark Barzett, Derek Gunn, Devin Caney with you. John McMullen joining the show coming up in just a minute. Don't want to let you guys know that this show is sponsored by First Trust Bank. Don't forget, JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Tomorrow morning, Birds 365 with Jody Mack and Johnny Mack. First Trust Bank, the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. So that show right there, brought to you by First Trust Bank. We're talking a lot about Jonathan Gannon today, as most people would assume, after another horrendous performance by this Eagles defense. Something else I wanted to talk about. In that fourth quarter, let's talk about a positive for a second here. We mentioned Nick Sirianni. We've only mentioned Jalen Hurts. After the Chargers went up 24-17, Jalen Hurts did something that Jalen Hurts, we really haven't gotten an opportunity to really watch him do, which was drive this team down the field, be accurate, use his legs, and basically will this team to a touchdown with Devonta Smith capping it off on that drive. That was an opportunity for Jalen Hurts to really take charge, and I'm telling you, I root for this guy almost more so than any other athlete because he's got the mindset and the mentality, and we talk, Devin, you say it all the time, mentally on steroids. Mm-hmm. It was great to see as a guy that always says, you can't be worried about results. Well, the results mattered on that drive because he went and got him. He willed this team to that score. Nick Sirianni didn't get in his way. He converted two third down possessions, and then also capped it off with that Devonta Smith touchdown. I thought that was finally the Jalen Hurts coming into his own that we needed to see really all season long.
I don't think you can put a game on Jalen Hurts' shoulders right now at this level of his development.
Mm-hmm.
The last two games are the perfect indication of how to utilize his skills. You got to establish the ground attack. You've got to keep a defense on his heels. And then let him do his thing. Get him out of the pocket. Let him roll outside of the pocket and have that ability to either run or find somebody down the field. And I've said this a number of times. I think he throws better on the move than he does standing in the pocket, although he threw a great ball to Devonta Smith for that 28-yard touchdown that tied the game. But I think overall his game is better suited when he's on the move. And as we saw, as you just talked about, the fact that he was able to get out of the pressure, the Chargers did a poor job on their blitzes of keeping him in the pocket. They let him roll outside of the pocket, and he burned him a couple of times. He has quickness enough to run away from any outside containment, and in a lot of cases, safeties and cornerbacks. And he showed that athleticism, especially in the one where he picked up the first down where he flipped forward like Willie Beeman from Any Given Sunday, and so I think that's how Jalen is best suited. But it all begins with establishing the run. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see Jalen Hurts throwing the football 35, 40, 45 times a game. Like a Justin Herbert, like a Derek Carr. He's not that kind of quarterback. They've been groomed to be those types of quarterbacks. He wasn't that type of quarterback when he was at Oklahoma. He didn't have to be because of the great pass catchers he had when he was in college. He's got some great young pass catchers now who are still learning the game at this level. They're doing a great job. When you talk about Devonta Smith, Quez Watkins, and you look at the age of these guys, they're doing a great job making big catches, getting separations, earning their respect across the National Football League. But they're still young and learning the game at this level. They're good enough to compete. They're good enough to make games exciting, but they still have a few more games to get under their belt before they take this thing to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
I think that drive, the one where Jalen Hurts was doing acrobatics, I think that showed us a glimpse into what the Eagles could be. Mm-hmm. I think that shows promise. And, we're always talking about, just making progress, making adjustments.
Yep.
If Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen can devise a game plan and work with Jalen Hurts to create a game plan that allows him to play like that one drive throughout an entire game, I think the Eagles would have a much better record and will have a much better record. I think, again, he's learning as he goes. I love Jalen Hurts' mentality. I don't love his accuracy, but I also love that Devonta Smith finally got some nice catches, including a touchdown on that drive where, especially at the start of the game, not just Devonta, but Dallas Goedert, we just saw those accuracy issues again. And I think he cleaned them up. Jalen Hurts cleaned them up in the second half of it. But it's stuff like that, he does do a flip to get a first down, but then you're like, okay, but you literally missed Dallas Goedert by 10 feet in the first quarter. And that can be pretty frustrating to watch.
Mm-hmm. And he was under pressure on that particular play. So I will say that, but no, still, you got to make that throw regardless. He was. Devonta Smith, that 28-yard touchdown pass that he got from Jalen Hurts. It was a 10-play drive, 78 yards. They took 5 minutes, 25 seconds to do it. That's how long the drive was. Very balanced attack again. And the reason I think that drive in particular means so much is because Jalen Hurts had so much riding on that particular drive, because this was a time where we're finally seeing Nick Sirianni over these last two games, and it feels good to say it, last two games, not just against the Lions, but these last two games, where you saw Nick Sirianni really help out his quarterback. I thought this was his best game plan, his best play calling that he's had. He worried me a little bit in his first couple possessions where they only really ran the ball once or twice, I believe it was, in their first 10 plays. And I thought, what happened to that guy that said he was going to run the ball 5 times of his first 7 plays that they had scripted against the Lions? That balance wasn't there. He totally turned that around as the game went on because he was playing the worst run defense in the NFL. So he took the workload off his quarterback's shoulders. Then when they were down in the fourth quarter, which is a time where you can make an excuse a little bit to get away from running the ball, he didn't. He still stuck with it. When they went down early in the game, he still stuck with the run. He never hit the panic button in this game. And when he needed to hand the ball to his quarterback to say, hey, go make me a play, those 2 separate third down conversions, Jalen Hurts stepped up in a huge way to make those plays become first downs, get him a new set of get a new set of downs, and then also be able to find a guy downfield like he did with Devonta. We haven't really seen many opportunities for Devonta Smith to do that. Against the Panthers, he was able to do it, and he certainly cashed in there. This was a game where you really got to see him take the reins as a starting quarterback in the NFL. And why did that happen in today's game? Because his coach was actually there to help him out, doing it with a good game plan and good game calling or good play calling as well. So seeing that kind of come together offensively was great. But then on the other side of it, to see it fall apart defensively, I don't know what Gannon is supposed to do at this point, other than how do you ignore being aggressive in a game like this in particular? And I do have one specific example. Did you see the way Davion Taylor was playing tonight? I will say this. I'm not putting this guy in a Pro Bowl by any means, and I'm not even saying that he had some kind of great game. But that man was looking to hit somebody. One was a horrible whiff on what ended up being the game-winning drive. But how do you not, early in the game, maybe in the third quarter, maybe not when everything's not on the line, how do you not try to just send him into the backfield and try to make a play for you and try to disrupt things? That man was looking to get aggressive and get in the backfield tonight. And Jonathan Gannon, I guess maybe he'll realize that on film. But when you see somebody that is being that aggressive, let him loose. Take the reins of it. Just let him go after a quarterback. And he did not do that tonight.
Why are you surprised with the way the defensive scheme played itself out today? And I'm like you. I'm sitting here and I'm saying Jonathan Gannon should have done this, should have done that.
Right.
But the book on him has been up to this point. Against better personnel, he shows way too much respect. Now, obviously, he stepped out of character, and they attacked Detroit all day long because it was like going to a gunfight with a cap gun playing the Lions. Okay? Detroit had nothing to counter with. So he did it all day, and he got a monkey off his back for at least 1 week. But I'm not surprised one bit when you talk about who the other quarterback was, the personnel he had at his disposal. I'm not surprised one bit with what I saw. And you can see it was evident right from the jump how they were going to play him. You know, Chargers walked down the field right from the opening jump, and I'm sitting there going, look at the cushion that they're giving these guys. Are you kidding me? Look at, and they just walk right down the field. So I'm not surprised one bit.
I'll tell you. Okay, I'm not surprised because I know he's not a good defensive coordinator. However, when I watch Nick Sirianni make adjustments, and I know he's in the ear all the time of Jonathan Gannon, and Devin, as you pointed out, he even called him up and they met and they reamed him out for not making big plays and not coming up and making those plays. If that's going to happen from your head coach, then why can't you do what your head coach and play caller are doing on the offensive side of things and do the same thing? Say, you know what? Here's our best play. Go ahead and beat it. Like every once in a while, you got to be able to dictate the play to the offense about what they need to do, not just sit back and say, all right, they're going to make a mistake eventually. You got to be aggressive sometimes. You saw Nick Sirianni make adjustments. You saw him take a lot of what he did against the Lions and apply it here, not because you were going to have the same success, but because the same philosophy can lead to success. And what did we talk about a lot last week? All right, this isn't going to work every time because this is the Lions, but there are philosophies here that you can cut and paste from this game and apply it to the next game against the Chargers. I saw Nick Sirianni, I saw Jalen Hurts, I saw Boston Scott, I certainly saw Jordan Howard really take a lot of things that they did in that last game, and they were able to do it. They were let loose in this particular game. I didn't see really one thing from Jonathan Gannon that went, okay, this is what we did well in that game. Let's apply it to this one. The one time that you might be able to say you even saw something like that was, as we pointed out earlier, the Steven Nelson penalty in that second quarter. That was really the only time. Other than that, I didn't see anything from Jonathan Gannon to go, wow, Nick Sirianni looks like he's learning on the job. He's improving. Jalen Hurts improving. Jonathan Gannon, I think he's still the same guy from week one. And that week 1 game against the Falcons are terrible, so we can say that. But still, I haven't seen anything from Jonathan Gannon to go, this guy's really getting it. He's learning. He's being brought along. I haven't seen him really do anything. I just see him try to rely on the offense to make mistakes.
Well, I would say Jonathan Gannon has been extremely inconsistent. He had a good game plan, obviously, against the Falcons. And as we saw, the Falcons, which are getting better every week, by the way, they were not ready coming out of the gate. I thought the game plan was pretty good against the 49ers. They held the 49ers to 17 points, but then it got out of control. I mean, Dallas blasted them. The Raiders blasted them. The Chargers blasted them. And I just think his so-called philosophy is just inconsistent. When he said that I don't have a scheme, I have a philosophy, and then he tried to cover it up the next week saying, well, I do have a scheme. No, you don't. No, you really don't. I wonder if it's a lack of trust in personnel. And I say that because when I look at the Eagles' D-line, they have enough depth and talent to get home. On the back end of their defense, they may not be sprinkled with Pro Bowlers, but the 2 corners, and Anthony Harris was back as safety along with Rodney McLeod, are all proven veterans. They've been around the block a few times. The only real weak link on this defense really is the linebackers. And there's ways to cover up those deficiencies by blitzing them, or instead of having 3 backers, put 2 in and bring in a 5th DB to play as well. You can play a 4-2-5 in a lot of cases, and get your 2 best linebackers out there. Now, obviously, when you talked about them trying to cover the likes of Jared Cook and the kid Parham, you knew that was going to be a mismatch. And as it showed, the tight ends chewed them up today in the secondary. But you can do certain things and utilize them in certain ways to disguise some of their deficiencies. But when you don't even blitz 30% of the time, you're just playing right into the opposition's hands. For every Detroit, and even teams with losing records, if you look at a lot of teams in the National Football League right now with losing records, they have offensive personnel, offensive weapons that can do damage. There are very few Detroits in the National Football League. So you're going to have to basically put more trust in your guys. Now, just like your guys get paid, these guys get paid over here to make plays. They're going to make X amount of plays. You can minimize the amount of plays they make by doing something a little different. And again, I can't emphasize the word enough. Put more blitzing in your overall packages. You have to put more blitzing because you're not getting home with just your 4-man rush. Okay. And the right side of the Chargers offensive line were backups. I would have been attacking the right side of the line all day long. Justin Herbert, he can run a little bit. And as we saw him scramble for that touchdown, he can run a little bit, but he's not very elusive like a Jalen Hurts. I would have attacked him all day until you made him change it, to be quite honest with you. So,
do you guys want to hear a fun stat that I just saw from Chris Infante from Philadelphia Sports Nation? The Eagles defense is on pace to allow the highest completion percentage in NFL history, not just this season, in history. They're currently allowing 75.5% after today. Next is the Jags 2021 D allowing 74. Then 2016 Detroit, 72.7. Then 2018 Bucks. Then 2011 Colts. That's so embarrassing.
By the way, you mentioned the Jaguars. I think they held a very prolific offense in the Buffalo Bills to 6 points today.
How about that?
Okay, so obviously they changed up something because I don't know of many teams that can hold Buffalo to 6 points, let alone a team that's completely rebuilding like Jacksonville. But they did something right today to hold that team down. And see, that's what we're talking about. You make adjustments here. You don't have to change your personality and identity, but you do have to change what's not working. And what you're doing right now against better competition is not working because, as Devin just talked about, you're allowing quarterbacks to complete at a 75% clip, which is an embarrassing high ratio in the National Football League. You keep doing that, you are not going to win many games at this level. Plain and simple.
Is it a compliment? Let me just ask this question real quick. Is it a compliment that Jonathan Gannon did something for a first time today? Like, we really haven't seen too many tight ends beat the brakes off the Eagles. And although Cook didn't have a great game, he had a great first half. We hadn't seen really too many tight ends really get after the Eagles. They were able to get after the Eagles today. So that's new. That's a new way that Jonathan Gannon's been beat. So is that a positive at all?
Diversity in the lack of scheme, I guess.
There we go. Now
it depends on who you're playing.
Okay. So if I'm Gannon though, and thinking about that stat, and you're about to give up, the worst completion percentage ever, don't you just think for a second that, hey, you know what? Maybe instead of giving somebody time, a second and a half, 2 seconds, ball's out. Maybe, the ball just comes out like that. Why not try to do something a little bit different as opposed to letting that quarterback feel like he's, staying at, the most comfortable lap of luxury he could ever have in his own pocket. I don't get it.
I don't understand it. And if I'm Nick Sirianni, I'm having a few more closed door meetings with Jonathan Gannon. Because if you put up 24 points in a game, you could win a good measure of games if you have a halfway decent defense, Yeah. And again, I can't emphasize it enough. The Eagles' defensive personnel that they have is not that bad. How they're being utilized is what makes it look worse than it should. I'm still trying to get over the fact that 75% completion ratio. That is frightening. To think about that your defense can't bow up and keep a guy around 60, 62% in a game, 65 maybe. Boy, is that frightening.
It almost makes it seem like he shouldn't be in his position. Sorry.
And if you want to go back, he just added Jim Schwartz's secondaries. Most recently, 2020 allowed 68.7. So, I mean, it's not 75.5, but still not great. But yeah, no, it's pretty terrible.
68% is still much more manageable than 77% completion. Woo.
Yeah, even today's NFL, even today's pass happy NFL, where quarterbacks do get into that rhythm, and quarterbacks are so well protected and all that. That is difficult to do. That is really difficult to do. And the only game that Justin Herbert had posted a better passer rating than the one he put up tonight against the Eagles, he was 2 points better against the Chiefs, I believe, in week 2 of the season or week 3 of the season. So I ask every single week, especially with Jonathan Gannon, because let's say I don't look at Jonathan Gannon's personnel and say, oh, how is he not being better with this amazing personnel? However, even as bad as that might be, I don't think he's maximizing the talent on this personnel. For instance, Javon Hargrave, who started out like gangbusters, was like leading the league in sacks as a defensive tackle this year, has basically been invisible. Fletcher Cox has been pretty much invisible all season long. You look at the way this team has played throughout, and nobody jumps out to you as overly impressive. And Devonta Maddox got dinged up today early in this game. So when you look at some of these guys on defense, I don't look at Jonathan Gannon saying, oh, well, come on, these guys are great. But still, he's not maximizing the talent that he does have in front of him. He's not playing to the strengths of Fletcher Cox. He's not playing to the strengths of Javon Hargrave. He is simply waiting for that mistake to be made. And when a professional quarterback that has is at all worthy of being a pro quarterback in the NFL, when they have time or they know they're not going to get pressured, guess what they're going to do? They're going to feel calm. They're going to feel confident. They're going to be collected, and they're going to deliver strikes over the middle of the field, down the field. They'll run the ball to take even more pressure off themselves, and they'll continue to move the ball down the field. Yeah. If you're Jonathan Gannon, you got to do something to dial that up and make sure that you're knocking them off their game because they look way too comfortable. And as I said earlier, I looked at the Derek Carr game. I watched a little bit of that again leading up to this game, leading up to this week, because I thought, if Justin Herbert can sit back, if Derek Carr can sit back there and be that comfortable and look that great, Justin Herbert, with the threat of running the football as well, with his own legs, that's going to be even more of a mind-numbing statistic or mind-numbing game for what he could do against this defense. And sure enough, no improvement, same game plan, no pressure. Justin Herbert allowed to sit back there and just continue those stats that it seems like every quarterback can put up against this defense because they're not under pressure.
Is there anything that you like about the Eagles' defense?
I like Devonta Maddox when he's healthy. I like that he makes plays. And I like that I like TJ Edwards was hitting people today. And I like Davion Taylor at least showing some aggression out there on a football field. That's it. Even though he whiffed like you would have, like he reminded me, Davion Taylor and his whiff of Eckler, I think it was, running down the right sideline. It reminded me of when a 4-hole hitter in baseball sees a changeup but thinks it's a fastball and just like muscles up on it and tries to smack that and just totally overswings and they turn into corkscrew and they fall, they go 3 feet into the earth because of how bad they corkscrewed. That's what that reminded me of. But I thought, you know what? At least that's somebody that wants to hit somebody out there on this defense. Let me see more of that. Except actually making the play. That would be better. There you go.
All right. I'll give you that.
We have something interesting coming up. We have on this show, we have a first coming up. We're going to play for you a couple of minutes of Nick Sirianni's press conference where hopefully we get some answers. That's going to come up very soon here on the live postgame show. But first, I do want to tell you that we are brought to you by the wonderful people of Stateside Vodka. See the scroll below and use the code JAKIB, JAKIB, for 15% off a 1-liter bottle of Stateside Vodka. That's statesidevodka.com. See the lovely merchandise behind me. At the end of the year, Gunner, Devin, we're going to have a party. And I'm supplying with Stateside Vodka.
Those bottles are empty. That's nothing but water.
I know. At this point, we've made the joke like every loss, you've just drank one of them, and at this point, they're all empty. They're just filled with water.
Hey, Devin. You notice that it seems like every week one more bottles added to the shelf. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
I ain't fooling you none. A little bit later in the show, we're going to be joined by John McMullen live from the link. But when we come back, we'll hear a little bit from Flower Power himself, Nick Sirianni, when we return on live postgame show.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit. Glasses for cocktails, right?
It's for this, and that.
Is the length of the glass equal to your...
You betcha.
But is it made out of...
Glass?
Okay, but is the rip...
Smooth?
Will you stop doing...
That?
I'm the professional here.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. 1 free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. All from the company that's highly awarded. 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and deliciously tasting vodka. So good, it just disappears.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
7 on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
The live postgame show is powered by IBEW Local 98.
Welcome back, live post-game show, 6abc.com, as well as the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Mark Farzetta, Derek Gunn, Devin Caney with you. Coming up, John McMullen will join the show. We're exclusively presented by Ocean Casino Resort. Go for the live show. Go for the win. Ladies and gentlemen, first on live post-game show, we're going to hear a couple of minutes from Nick Sirianni's opening remarks from his press conference after the Eagles' 27-24 loss at the hands of the LA Chargers.
official about the 2-minute warning after that 1st and 15 play? What was that about?
After the
First and 15, they had the play action to the tight end.
Yeah, you know what? I'm actually I was on them a couple times, so I'm not really sure which one you're talking about. But yes, it's just the heat of the game. Sometimes is you kind of that happens sometimes. I always understand that the officials have a very tough job, and their job is hard too. In that. You know, and it's kind of how it goes for full circle. I'll recognize that, even though if sometimes I'll get on them, but they have a tough job, and they did their job, and they did.
That was about.
I don't actually. I'm sorry.
What was his explanation? It appeared that the offensive lineman, it was an illegal offensive lineman downfield. What was the official's explanation?
I thought it was. They thought it wasn't, and so I mean that's the way it goes sometimes. With that play, we've actually, as our offense, we know we've made strides as on penalties as our team. We've actually stopped running that play because we didn't think we could get that off without our guys being downfield. And so that was my conversation with them. And I have to look at the tape. And again, I know they have a hard job, and so I'm not here to criticize them at all. They said they were 2 yards downfield, which is legal, and so I got to trust that. In that.
On that Chargers final drive, what would you have liked your defense to do differently?
Well, obviously you want, they kept them in the 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. Obviously you want to be able to get the stop, and I thought they did a good job of not jumping off sides. Chargers, I thought they might kick the field goal after they went the no-brainer, but they didn't, and hats off to them. They executed. But anytime they convert on a short yardage, I mean, I know that the percentages are high on short yardage. I'm not sure exactly what they are league-wide, but obviously you just want to get a stop in that scenario. And so I'll have to look at the tape of the execution, the call and everything like that. But you just want to get a stop there in that scenario and give the ball back to the offense. I mean, that's the name of the game, and that's what you want to happen in that scenario.
For completion percentage for Justin Herbert, did Jonathan mix it up enough to your satisfaction?
Obviously, anytime you play a quarterback like Justin Herbert, there's no surprise. I think he's a good quarterback. We all know he's a good quarterback. You got to be on your A game, and you got to be, and it starts with us as coaches. And so, and I'm not going to say, Jonathan anything, because that's, my name's on that, right? So whatever happens out there on that field, my name's on. Offensively, defensively, I'm not the offensive coordinator, I'm the head coach. So, but again, it's all of us together. So it's myself. It's first myself getting the right calls and putting the players in position, then Jonathan, and then the players executing. And so, of course, again, when a guy comes away, he's 84%. You're going to say that we didn't do our job, right? And so, we just got to be better. Again, I'll have to go look at the tape and look at all the calls, but obviously not good enough starting with myself and by the defense there with the pass defense.
How did you feel like Jalen handled himself in that fourth quarter drive, the one that tied?
Yeah, he was.
He was great, I think. I think that's what he was going to there.
That was pretty good, man. That is Nick Sirianni a ventriloquist? Man, he did a lot of talking and his lips weren't moving.
He's just so stone-faced after a loss like that. But I give him a lot of credit. He was pretty honest, especially with the play he was talking about where the cameras caught him pretty fired up on the sidelines. I believe that was in the third quarter of the game. It was a 10-10 game at the time, and I guess he thought his guys his guys were upfield. And he was arguing with the official about it, and he's pretty honest and open about it. And I know, Devin, I think you agree with him on that.
On what?
As far as being angry at that particular play.
Oh, yes, yeah. I mean, I think, well, we didn't see him moving his lips in that press conference, but I think I know he talked about Flowers and Mark, I feel like you always bring up Nick Sirianni's first press conference, but I do feel like we're seeing him become a little bit more of a head coach. I hope I don't take that back starting like next week. I feel like every time I say something like that, I'm like, and we're bringing it back. We're just kidding. But no, I do agree with him on that.
And then the other thing was, other than just Jalen Hurts playing great, one thing I would have liked a little bit more information on, and the question was asked of Nick Sirianni about what do you want to see Jonathan Gannon do on that final drive or the last possession it was of the Chargers. And that's where I think he got a little tight-lipped, as to be expected. I don't know too many head coaches that are going to be like, well, how about this? How about not be terrible? How about that? Like, I'm not expecting them to say that. But I think he does want him to be more aggressive. And Devin, you brought up this point many times before when talking about how he did lay into and lean into a guy like Jonathan Gannon for his play calling earlier in the season for not being aggressive enough and realizing that that's a way they need to play more as a defense. And going into this particular week, Jonathan Gannon was asked during his press conference about his relationship with Nick Sirianni. And he said that one of the things that's so great about him is that he treats you like a human being, not just a coach. And Sirianni, he highlighted a conversation where Sirianni called him. He didn't get into specifics as to what type of game it was or which game it was. But Sirianni said, Gannon said that Sirianni called him just to say, hey, man, how you doing? Like, this isn't to ream me out. This isn't to say you need to do a better job. Just how you doing? I don't know what the conversation is after this game, but I'm going to go ahead and assume it's going to be more like the game you saw against Kansas City, for instance. Or like you saw against the Raiders, for instance, where you're not exactly going to be tough. You're not going to be being sweet and charming. If anything, you're going to be more in the tough love variety. Like, what are you doing on that last drive where Justin Herbert was allowed to do anything he wanted to do in that particular game? So that's something that I think we all want to see. And real quick, Kevin Agandi, ESPN, Temple guy, not for nothing. I think he wanted to see a lot of the same stuff as well. This is what Kevin Agandi had to say after the game when tweeting about it, and I think we're all on the same page here. Eagles showed growth and progress on offense, and that's all we can ask. Can we also have a defensive coordinator who is not afraid to play aggressive and avoid a charming soft coverage? Yeah, I think we can all get on the same page.
Charming soft, I love it. That is the perfect way to describe the Eagles defense today and pretty much every game this season. Charming soft coverage.
Yeah, I could not agree more. In all honesty, Gunnar, we've seen defenses play passive in the past. I can't remember too many defenses that were this passive. Like, even Jim Schwartz, who wasn't blitzing for all those years, was still getting pressure somehow from his defensive line. This year, it seems like we're not even getting that.
Well, we're not getting it consistently, that's for sure. And I don't know why. Because even with just Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave, they should be able to collapse the inside of that pocket on a more frequent basis, and it hasn't happened. So it's a hit or miss. You know, they're like bullies when it comes to playing inferior opponents. Well, the only real inferior opponent they've played this year was the Detroit Lions. You know, but when you have a team that can stand up to them, is all of a sudden your key players disappear. You know, Darius Slay, Mike Williams didn't kill him for a big overall day. He killed him on that one pass play, you know, but you've got to have something in your back pocket that when I, as the opposition, sit down and watch every game that you play this year, I'm not going to see a certain facet of what you're going to throw out there. And I think this defense has become way too predictable in situations. And if you have two things, if you have a quarterback who can get the ball out in a decent amount of time, less than 3 seconds, and if you have some decent pass catchers, you can have your way with this Eagles defense. And I can't wait to see at the end of the season what the overall number is going to be in terms of quarterbacks' completion percentage against this defense. It could be mind-blowing at that particular time just how bad it's really been. Now, the scary part is if any of their frontline secondary players go down for any great length of time, well, what you're putting in there is more inexperience, which means it could be even worse than what we've seen up to this point.
Oh boy.
Horrifying. That's horrifying. That's a horrifying
Horrifying
thought.
is the only word for it. Yeah.
Hey, I'm just here to give you positivity.
Mm-hmm. No,
sunshine and rainbows.
That's what I call you, the Gunner Sunshine, basically, all the time. That's kind of how we are.
Hey, don't say that publicly, please.
I did talk to somebody, Gunner. Devin, you'd love this. I talked to somebody recently who was talking to me about Gunner. And I said, yeah, just make sure you offer him a pumpkin spice latte because that's what gets it going for Gunner. That's what makes his day.
There you go.
Gunner, you know what? While we're on the subject, really quick, good friend Marshall Harris, he used to, you probably know him as well, has for weeks been bugging me to ask you about your nickname, and that is Mr. Potato Head. Do you have any comment on that?
Really?
Every week after week, I forget. And then he's like, did you ask him about it? Did you ask him? So here we are live on air. I'm asking you about Mr. Potato Head.
Number one, I will not answer that question. Number two, nor will I tell you what I call Marshall in retaliation. This is a family program, and so I'm just going to keep it clean from this point on.
Kid show.
But I will be giving Mr. Harris a call either tonight or tomorrow to discuss this further, away from the airwaves. And I know when I tell him that you brought it up on this show, he is going to be crying laughing. But so
no, gotcha. Understood.
I love it.
Coming up, we are going to. There was an unfortunate incident, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But John McMullen will join the show coming up in just a minute as live postgame show rolls on. But I will tell you also that this show is exclusively presented by Ocean Casino Resort. Go for the live show. Go for the win. John McMullen will when we return on live postgame show.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Basketball is part of how we grew up in this city, and every morning, IBEW Local 98 members take their best shot building this city, rescuing our community from decay, and inspiring the young men and women of the region to take pride in who we are, like the Hawks who will never die. Local 98 members love tradition. John Doherty, business manager of Local 98, says it this way: the best way not to forget where you come from is to never leave.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Welcome back. Live post-game show. Mark Farzetta, Derek Gunn, Devin Caney with you on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel as well as 6abc.com. Let's get to our man on the scene. Live from the link, John McMullen, who's presented by Messa Law & Associates. Need a tough injury lawyer? Call Messa & Associates. John McMullen, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Good. Spose could be better if the Eagles won, but they didn't. The main culprit in all our minds right now is Jonathan Gannon, Eagles defensive coordinator. Everything else looked like it was working pretty well. What was said after the game?
Yeah, I mean, look, this team has had a really, really difficult time against good quarterbacks. We documented that pretty consistently. The completion percentage, you saw it again, and I came in with a football crush on Justin Herbert before he played.
Was it the hair? It was the hair, wasn't it, John?
You can imagine where it is now. I mean, that kid is phenomenal. And he's going to be that good for a number of years. I'm kind of amazed as I sit here and look at the way he played. And the Eagles were in this game and they lose 27-24. A lot of it was, the 2 fourth down stops in the first half, which really kind of swung the game, or I thought it could have gotten kind of ugly. I just kind of look at this in a bigger picture standpoint. I'm like, the margin of error is so small for this team because they can't throw the football consistently. And then they have a guy on the other side who's just slinging it all over. At one point I said, if I were the Chargers, I'd never run the ball again. And if I were the Eagles, I'd never pass the ball again. Now, the Eagles did have that great drive to tie up the game, and they got some things going to Devonta Smith. But boy, it's just so difficult for them to play this style of offense, and there's just such a small margin of error, to be honest.
Hey, John, would you agree with what I had said earlier, that in watching this Eagles offense function the last couple of games, I think the offense in general and Jalen Hurts in particular would be better suited to make that a significant part of your identity in terms of running the football. It takes a lot of pressure off of Hurts, number one, and it allows Hurts to manage a game better instead of trying to carry the offense on his shoulders.
Yeah, I do think that's the way this Eagles team should play, and I think that's the way they've kind of settled into it and sort of finally come up with an identity we've been talking about. This is 2 weeks in a row where they've run the football effectively, and then you have some play action off of that. It was really successful to Devonta Smith. And then when they get inside the 10-yard line, they're really, really effective with those sort of, even if it isn't a zone read, it's the zone read mechanics, because teams are so freaked out that Jalen Hurts might pull the ball and go outside. It's giving them all these kinds of looks. That's why they've had so many inside zone touchdowns over the last couple of weeks. So I think that's the formula. That's the identity. But, that's because it has to be. And I don't think they want it to be that. I think they want to be able to sling the ball all over the place like the Chargers. They just don't have the capability to do that right now.
No.
Going back to the defense, because I think a lot of the pressure and criticism is falling on Jalen Hurts when most of it, at least in this game, is on the defense. I saw that Javon Hargrave was asked about how he feels the Eagles played and if they should have ran more blitzes, and he said that he's not the defensive coordinator. Were you there when he said that, and what was the overall vibe? It's a little concerning because he's now the second player that's kind of come out and said something.
Yeah, I think in Javon's case, it was a little bit different. I mean, he's always kind of soft-spoken, kind of understated. It was more of, I do my job. I'm not really focused on that other kind of stuff. Whereas I think when Fletcher said it was more out of frustration. They did throw a couple blitzes really in the first half. I think they were more aggressive, and it didn't work. And then they went back into their more conventional scheme, which hasn't worked against good quarterbacks. I mean, it hasn't. There's no other way to look at it. Even if you force a team to go 15, 17 plays, if they go 15, 17 plays, I think the mentality is, well, they'll make a mistake. And I thought maybe this week was the week where that would come true, because you're dealing with a younger quarterback who might get a little frustrated with taking what's there and might try to push the football down the field, but he didn't do that. So, yeah, it looks ugly at the end of the day. We're sitting here looking at the fifth passer, over 80% against this defense. And the strange thing is, the corners have had a very good year overall. Darius Slay, Steve Nelson, Devonta Maddox. Now, Darius went down. Devonta was out for a while as well. So that affected things. But I think it ended up, they had no sacks. They hit Justin Herbert once in this game. And when they did, it was Steve Nelson, which, by the way, was a blitz, and he got called for a penalty. So that kind of sums it up.
Right. I want to talk about the drive you mentioned earlier with Jalen Hurts. How much do you think that drive, other than tying the game, of course, at 24-all, how much do you think that drive meant to Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni? Because I thought it was great play calling from Nick Sirianni, and I thought it was just all-out effort by Jalen Hurts as well as talent on that drive.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was the best Eagles drive of the year. I really do. When you see the confluence of the running game and what Jalen offers from the ability to get out of the pocket and extend plays, I think he converted the 2 third downs, 3rd and 4s with great plays. He made passes. Nick Sirianni called him a stud on that drive, and unfortunately, the Chargers got the ball back and took up the rest of the time, and it's frustrating. But, yeah, I thought that was the best Eagles drive of the season. But to Jalen's credit, he didn't want to talk about that because they lost the game. And he's very consistent about that, whether he plays poorly or plays well. He didn't want it pointed out that he had a good drive because they lost the game. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for Jalen when he does things like that, because it'd been easy to say, yeah, I had a great drive. Yeah, it was really effective. And he just didn't want to talk about it.
John, I want to get your take on, a lot of people are saying that they're okay with this loss. This Eagles team, especially the offense, at least, showed promise. And I kind of tend to agree with that. I think today's game, I mentioned that drive where, Jalen Hurts had a first down, Devonta Smith had completions, and not first drive, but the drive in the fourth quarter. That showed promise to me. That showed adjustments, that showed improvement, which is something that we hadn't seen a lot from Nick Sirianni, at least. Do you feel the same way? And do you feel that Nick Sirianni is getting more confident as a head coach and is in his playing calling?
I do. As strange as it sounds, I was thinking this was probably the game to decide who the best rookie head coach is in this league. And that sounds kind of strange because if you look around at the rookie head coaches, they're not doing too well. So Brandon Staley probably would have been number one when they were off to the 4-1 start, but he had lost 2 in a row. Nick Sirianni is getting a lot of criticism, but he's got this team playing hard, incremental improvements, and I think he's learning on the job. And, I kind of look at it, and I know people don't want to hear it, but I think Nick was the better coach today. I thought Brandon Staley, had the better team and should have had a much easier time, and he had to fight and claw for a victory. So, well, I know, and Nick said it himself, there's no moral victories in this league. Jalen said things similar, but didn't use that phraseology. And there isn't, but I do see improvement and with this team and where they're going. And I think, Nick is doing an okay job. I'm not going to say he's doing a good job because the record is what it is, but I think he's improving. And, the people throwing flowers at him as he leaves the field or jerseys out in Las Vegas are kind of missing the big picture.
Did he address that in the press conference, the flowers?
Now, we were all getting a video. Jamie Apodi kind of put it up there, and she was sitting right next to me, and I saw it. And we did ask TJ Edwards. TJ pretended he didn't know what we were talking about, but he clearly did. I imagine he'll get asked about it tomorrow, and I'll certainly ask him if nobody else does. But yeah, I mean, I talked to him behind the scenes about what happened in Las Vegas. He wasn't happy. He was clearly frustrated from the video. And I think people don't, maybe don't know that about Nick, but he's got a bit of a temper. I think he comes across as this happy-go-lucky guy, but he was really frustrated after this game. And he thought, his team had a chance to win. They did have a chance to win. They had a chance to steal a game. They haven't won at Lincoln Financial Field yet. So I think that pressure is kind of building up. And yeah, he was, I think it was pretty evident by the video. He was not happy with it.
Mm-hmm. John, we have been talking throughout the show about Devonta Taylor, and this kid, the way he is playing. He's just playing with reckless abandon. Man, if they can find a few more guys like that, especially at the linebacking position, that can change the whole complexion of this defense in terms of being more assertive and maybe even blitzing more, for that matter. I just don't think they have the personnel right now in the linebacking core to play a lot of different games that you can play against opposing quarterbacks.
No, you're right. I mean, they just don't have a ton of talent at the linebacker position. And Davion, it's a shame. If you go back to training camp, you saw, we were all kind of surprised, I think, a little bit that they started Davion out as a starter in training camp. And we thought, well, they're just trying to get him some reps because he's so raw. But no, they wanted him to be a starting linebacker. And he hurt his calf and he was out for the majority of camp, and that set him back a little bit. But yeah, he's just got more talent, more athleticism than what they're used to at linebacker, certainly with this group and even going back to the Doug Peterson era. And if the rest of his game can catch up to that athleticism, you might finally have something at linebacker. And I think if you look at Jonathan Gannon, and he had Darius Leonard in Indianapolis, he had Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks in Minnesota. Obviously, he wants that type of linebacker. And Devonta Taylor's probably the only one with the physical gifts to eventually get to that kind of level. Still got a long way to go, but I think it's good that the Eagles are playing him and getting rid of some of the startup costs that Jim Schwartz used to talk about with young players. You got to live with some of the mistakes early, and hopefully they learn from them.
Well, something interesting he got into there when he came to Jonathan Gannon and talking about a guy like Devonta Taylor, like Gunnar asked you about. I've seen steps forward from Nick Sirianni in the last two games. I just said, hey, do what you're supposed to against a team like the Lions. They did what they were supposed to do against a team like the Lions. In this game, show that you can still run the football against now the worst run defense in the league. He did that tonight. Jalen Hurts took a step forward as well. Do you think we will ever see Jonathan Gannon play a little bit more aggressive and actually send a guy like Devonta Taylor? Because once I saw him running around out there, I thought, hey, get aggressive. He wants to hit somebody, put him in the backfield, try to disrupt things, like you at least, I guess, attempted to a little bit in that first half. Do you think Jonathan Gannon will ever flip that switch and maybe start being a little bit more aggressive?
Yeah, I mean, I think he already has. If you look at the Detroit game, they were tremendously aggressive. I don't think people noticed because Detroit was so bad. Same thing with Carolina. Certainly more aggressive. I think it has to do with the quarterback. When he feels the quarterback is susceptible to that type of thing, he's going to send people. Even today, as a younger quarterback, Justin Herbert, early in the game, I mentioned Steve Nelson. They blitzed. I saw them blitz Andre Sacheret on 2 occasions after Avonte Maddox went down. There was another blitz from a defensive back that I can't remember, but I at least counted 3, and it didn't work. And I think he scaled back from there. I certainly didn't see as much, and I'll have to watch the film, but I didn't see as much in the second half. Look, I like Jonathan Gannon. Everybody knows that. but he hasn't had success. So until you have success, the criticism is going to be valid. And if you look at the completion percentage of the quarterback, it's not acceptable. So by no means do I think you should say, oh, maybe there should be more curveballs, but I'm just pulling it up. If you look at this, it's ridiculous. I mean, Keenan Allen had 13 targets, caught 12 receptions. Jared Cook, 4 out of 4. Steven Anderson, 4 out of 4. Parham, 3 out of 3. Eckler, 3 out of 3. Palmer, 2 of 2. Guyton, Kelly, 1 of 1. The only 2 receivers were Williams and Guyton that had incompletions thrown to them, and Keenan Allen had 1, obviously. That's not acceptable. So maybe you should say there should be more curveballs being thrown. But I look at the scoreboard and I see the 4th down stops, and I see 27-24, and the Eagles were outmanned. So I get why people are upset, but in a lot of ways, the modern NFL, when you're playing these star quarterbacks, is about getting a key stop. The Eagles were able to get 2 monster stops on 4th down. Remember, coming in, this was the best 4th down team in the NFL, the best. And they stopped them twice in the first half, or this game probably would have been a blowout. So you have to add that into your context as well.
I think people look at the blitz now like they look at the run. Like, even if the run's not working, still got to do it just to make them think they're going to do it. Now I think people are still looking at the blitz like that right now with a guy like Jonathan Gannon and the, I know it's not exactly the best, the most talented defense in the entire National Football League. I get that. But I think that's how people are looking at it. And they're seeing Sirianni say, all right, you know what? We're going to keep running the football. Well, it's working, so it's easy to do it when it works. But even in a blitz, if it fails, just to try to bust things up, to make the quarterback think twice, I think people are kind of making that assimilation between the two, between running the football even at times when it doesn't work and blitzing even at times when it doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of go from the opposite direction with JG, in that if I were to criticize him, I would say, why is this defensive line, which we thought coming into this season would be the strength of the team along with the offensive line, why aren't they producing to the level that we expected? And, it looked like Josh Sweat was going to have a career year, hasn't really developed. Fletcher Cox has not played like Fletcher Cox. Javon Hargrave got off to the great start, but has kind of disappeared. Losing Brandon Graham certainly hurt, I think, even more than people realize. Derek Barnett has not performed. My question is why? Why are these guys underperforming to the level? Because when Jim Schwartz was here, that's what this defense was about. It was about that defensive line and them getting home. And they did. And Jason Kelsey even talked about that this week, about the lack of home success.
Right.
And about how aggressive that defensive line played under Jim Schwartz. And when the Eagles had a lead late or were close late, and this place was rocking and the noise was up, and you had to use silent counts, it just was such a huge advantage. So if I'm going to criticize something, it's, why aren't those guys producing? I don't care about the blitz, because I don't think this team can blitz. I don't think they can blitz successfully. But I need that front 4 to get home, and they're not getting home.
Hey, John, to get away from the X's and O's for just a bit, I'm told that Devonta Smith addressed the Henry Ruggs situation. I know they were good friends. And could you kind of just, in layman's terms, tell us what Devonta had to say about, Ruggs in such a devastating and such a tragic situation that has occurred?
Yeah, I mean, they're not only friends, they used to be roommates at Alabama. So they are really, really close. And even if you go back to Las Vegas, they were so happy to see each other. Obviously, I think it was a difficult week for DeVonta Smith, and to have your friend and remember, people are going to, whether it's right or not, take things negatively if you say you're praying for your friend, because they're more concerned about the victim and the horrible nature of what happened, and that's understandable. But also, and Jalen Hurts said this as well. I mean, that's their friend and that's their brother, and they're praying for him, and it's something very, very difficult to go through. But he's in a lot of trouble from a legal standpoint, and they understand that. But it doesn't change the fact that they're very close to that particular person, and obviously he's having a difficult time as well, even though people don't want to hear about that.
John McMullen, always great catching up with you, man. Thanks for getting us the inside scoop on all that was talked about after the game today. Appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you next week. Hopefully this time after an Eagles win, because that's more fun. You know what I'm saying? When they win and
Denver
stuff.
looks better all of a sudden.
How
looks better.
How about that? And you know what? We'll try to arrange a meetup between you and Justin Herbert, and you guys can hang out or something, have a beer, have a good time.
I do have a bit of a football crush. It's only football related.
Understood. John, thanks so much, brother. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, John McMullen was brought to us by the great people of Mesa Law and Associates. And Joe Mesa, I believe, is standing by at Lincoln Financial Field amongst the tailgaters. Joe, are you in your spot right now?
We are. We're here. A lot of people cleared out after the game and lost.
We're here.
Oh. Still here.
We're here.
Can she play linebacker? Can she be a linebacker? What's going on there?
I used to play.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
Does she know how to blitz? Can she blitz?
Blitz. You can definitely blitz.
Okay.
I know blitz and everything.
Today,
I'm an athlete. Let's go.
So what, are you guys? I think you're not celebrating.
I'm gonna be the coach.
All right.
Honestly, she'd probably do a better job than Gannon at this point. I take it you guys aren't celebrating. You're just kind of like partying away the pain over there.
Yeah, pretty much. We were out here all day, probably. I don't know. We were set up at about 9:00 this morning, so it's been a long day. It was fun, but the Eagles let us down again. I mean, I thought it was a good game. It was exciting. They had a chance to win the game. Maybe not that exciting, but we had a chance to win the game. The defense, I mean, no sacks, no real pressures on Herbert, and no turnovers. They seem like they had 2 stops on fourth and short, but the last one at the end, they couldn't stop them. That really hurt.
Joe, I have to ask this question real quick.
Yeah,
Jalen Hurts goes through the air, flips. They score the touchdown on the drive. What was the reaction from the crowd? Take us into your seats right there when Jalen Hurts did the flip.
The crowd was going crazy. I mean, the rushing touchdowns, Jalen Hurts, Gainwell, the crowd was going crazy. It was great. I think when they came out in the second half and 2 quick scores too, that hurt. But crowd was in the game, till late in the game. We had every chance to win the game.
I'm a big fan of your friend. That's the energy we need the next home game, because the fans, Joe, like you and the rest of your people, they bring the energy every time. We need the Eagles defense to be just as aggressive as you guys and energetic.
Absolutely. We got to win this next game. I mean, we got to put some wins together, no doubt.
But I'm in a wheelchair.
Hurt,
I think that will work.
Giants beat the
wheelchair.
The Giants beat the Raiders today. That hurt. I was all the way out there 2 weeks ago.
Oh, man, thanks.
There we go. There we go.
There we go. We appreciate Joe messaging, calling us.
I hope we're on a 7-second delay.
Yeah, no, she likes ducks. She says she loves ducks. That's what she said.
Don't we all?
So we're good. Who doesn't love ducks? You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. Look, after being out there for what? They're going on 12 hours now. I'd probably be there's only one option after getting through a game like that. So
now, Joe Mesa, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate him taking us into the crowd there with the real raw emotions after a game like that. When we come back, there is something that also happened that was also some raw emotions, and John McMullen alluded to it. Devin, you'll take us through it, because this was unfortunate after a game, and I disagree with something John said regarding Nick Sirianni. We'll talk about that when we return on Live Postgame Show.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the memories. Go for the view that goes on forever. Go for the bubbles in your bathtub and in your drink. Go to bed whenever you want. or don't. Go for him. Go for her. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that. Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
The live postgame show is powered by IBEW Local 98.
Basketball is part of how we grew up in this city. And every morning, IBEW Local 98 members take their best shot, building this city, rescuing our community from decay, and inspiring the young men and women of the region to take pride in who we are, like the Hawks who will never die. Local 98 member, love tradition. John Doherty, business manager of Local 98, says it this way: the best way not to forget where you come from is to never leave.
Postgame show. Mark Farzad, Derek Gutt, Devin Caney with you following an Eagles 27-24 loss to the LA Chargers. Devin, you saw this. You brought it to our attention as well. This is an unfortunate situation that John McMullen hinted at. It was a video posted by Jamie Apodi. Go ahead, Devin. Take us through this.
She did. I don't know if anyone remembers back when the Sixers were in the playoffs, there was some popcorn throwing. There was a jersey throwing that John McMullen alluded to in Vegas. And today there were flowers thrown at Nick Sirianni. And John mentioned he had a little bit of a temper. I don't know if we can play this video or not. But he does get pretty fired up, and it looks like a security guard kind of holds him back. I don't actually see them thrown. But, yeah, I don't know if we've seen that from Nick Sirianni, and I don't know. My take on this is, first of all, I saw a few tweets that were like, that's the wrong coach. It should have been at Gannon. Just throwing things at anyone, coach, player, other fan, just like don't do it, guys. It's giving us a bad rep.
I'll say this. I don't think Nick Sirianni is necessarily a happy-go-lucky guy, but I do think he's a very emotional guy. Yeah. And when you're a very emotional person, you tend to ride a roller coaster. And if you do push somebody who's an emotional person the wrong way, they could definitely have the negative reaction just as they could have the positive reaction. And I think that was it there, especially as John McMullen pointing out, they haven't won at home yet. He still wants to have that first win in front of the South Philly faithful at Lincoln Financial Field, and that unfortunately hasn't happened yet. And when somebody throws flowers in your direction, even if it's in adulation, you don't know that. You just know somebody's throwing stuff at you, and that's never a good thing. So when you see that video go out, it's very unfortunate. That is never called for, especially after a loss like that when you know it's going to be taken negatively. So that sucks. Yeah. I am sorry that Nick Sirianni had to go through something like that, just because you never want to see something like that, obviously.
First of all, go ahead, Devin. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I mean, we know how hard Nick Sirianni took the first loss that we had of the season after that game against the Falcons, and we know that he's constantly wanting to please the fans and fit in Philly with his pandering. So you know that just added that extra layer of hurt for him at home with the flower throwing. Sorry, Deegan, go ahead.
No, that's all right. First of all, if they found that person, they should be tossed from the stadium for the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
You have the right to voice your opinion in any way, shape, or form, but you don't have the right to throw anything. And even though it's flowers, you can hit somebody in the eye, the face, and you can hurt somebody, doing stuff like that. And then what kind of example are you setting if you have kids with you or something like that? You're letting them, you're giving them the green light. It's okay to do stuff like that at other sporting events, maybe. Your child is a product of his or her environment, And for Nick Sirianni, I understand his frustration. Okay, it's not working out to what he had hoped it would. You're in one of the most vocal NFL cities, one of the most passionate NFL cities in all of the NFL. And I'm sure the frustration is mounting. He is constantly being second-guessed. People laughed at him when he mentioned the flower speech that he gave his players. And I think although the players rallied around it for the Detroit game, it kind of backfired on him because the media and the fan base in general ran with it in a whole different direction. So the fact that they're losing more than they're winning, they haven't won a game at home in 4 tries this year. It gets to you after a while. It gets to anybody. Nobody likes to lose. You don't sign up to play in the National Football League in any aspect, whether it's front office, coaching, or a player, to be a part of a losing entity. And when you lose more than you win, it does become quite frustrating, especially in a market like Philadelphia. So for that fan, whoever it was that actually had the audacity to take a bouquet of flowers and throw it at him, it didn't hurt anybody. But what if you missed and hit somebody else? Some season ticket holder and his family walking off the field, hit a kid in the eye, anything.
Right.
You don't do that. So hopefully they got to that person and tossed them out of there. The game was over, but hopefully I wish they would suspend them for the rest of the season from coming into a stadium.
Right. Banned. They're banned. Boom, you're banned. Yeah. Just like that. Again, it's not exactly what they were throwing. It's still the fact that it's just so disrespectful to just say, boom, throw some, like people were saying to the popcorn thing. It's popcorn, relax. They're missing the point. I don't care if it's a bowling ball or if it's a popcorn. The act is just so ridiculously disrespectful that there's no need for it anywhere. And I'll say this, Nick Sirianni, I'll say it again because I want to give credit where credit's due. And I'm a guy who said he's in over his head. I'm a guy who made fun of him and laughed at the whole flower speech. He still had me with the rock, paper, scissors. I had his back for that. But when it came to the flower thing, I was like, no way. And this locker room has embraced it. His offense has embraced it. His offense has not been the problem these last 2 games, especially this game in particular. But when it comes to this particular instance, this game, I can only look at Jonathan Gannon because I see Nick Sirianni. They improve on their penalties. They've done that over the last couple of weeks of the season, which everyone thought would never happen. I know Derek Barnett had another penalty today. That was a real bad one, and a 3rd and 6 turned into a 3rd and 1. But they've improved for the most part on their penalties. They certainly improved in a balanced attack, offensively speaking, if not more heavily favoring the run game, which has been great to see because it takes the workload off of Jalen Hurts. Keep that going. Keep that improvement coming. Nick Sirianni, to me, is not the problem right now. Has he been the problem? Has he had a bad year through most of the season? Sure. But over the last couple of games, not so much. Jalen Hurts has improved because the workload is off his shoulders. The guy that I'm still waiting to see improve is Jonathan Gannon with his scheme, or whatever you want to call it, his general philosophy. Sure, don't allow the big play, but how about causing a big play to happen every once in a while? That's all I'm asking for. Nick Sirianni did not deserve that after the game today. Nick Sirianni has impressed me over the last 2 weeks just as far as doing what he's supposed to do as a head coach. My focus, my ire is not at all on Nick Sirianni or Jalen Hurts after a game like this. It's on the defensive side of the ball. It's the defensive side of the ball when it comes to however they decided to play this game, whatever they were scheming to do early and not able to accomplish, and then not showing any aggression in the second half whatsoever. So to me, that's where that's more of what I'm focusing on today when it comes to my energy and my efforts to say, what are you doing? I'm watching one guy improve. I'm watching one guy not improve even a little bit. So that to me is where I have most of my concern.
What confused me? Oh, sorry. Deegan, go ahead.
No. Go right ahead.
I was going to say what confused me about and I love John McMullen. Just one statement he made. He said every show he likes Jonathan Gannon, but then we've talked about what came first, the chicken or the egg, when it comes to Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni when they were struggling. And I'm not saying they're totally fine now, but the word is progress. And like you said, Mark, we're seeing progress from Nick Sirianni. We're seeing progress from Jalen Hurts. And that's really all, at least I'm asking for here in this season. With Jonathan Gannon, we're not, but is it him? Is it his scheme, or is it his lack of players not playing to their full potential? Or is it a combination of both? And that's something that's like, I'm confused how you can be a fan of a defensive coordinator and their scheme and then watch what happened today and still back up that statement.
I like a lot of what I've seen from Nick Sirianni the last couple of games. Now I'm intrigued to see what happens moving forward in this next game on the road at Denver, because Denver is a little bit stouter up front on defense. Will you stay committed to the run no matter what, or will you allow Denver to force you out of the run? So I'm really looking forward to see how that matchup plays itself out, because Denver defends the run better than both of these previous two teams actually did. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, and if he gets away from the running game, because basically he has given the fan base now what they've been crying for in terms of run the football, establish the run. So he's done that. Now you can't get away from it now. Now there are going to be times when you just can't run the football because teams are taking it away from you. But that has to be a significant part of your identity now, because you've shown that even with this makeshift offensive line that has played together now for a couple of weeks and seems to have continuity and chemistry together as we got to see in this game today, now people want more of it. And so if you get away from that for anything other than the opposition being just that much stouter in the trenches than your offensive line, shame on you. And of course, the negative criticisms are going to rain down on him again.
The other thing, when you look at a game like that, like for instance, Ezekiel Elliott, but he's Ezekiel Elliott. He still ran the football 5 yards a carry. He averaged today against a pretty good defense.
Right.
This is exactly what I get into when I start talking about throwing your best at them and saying, hey, you deal with it. This is the best version of ourselves. And although I'm not expecting 25, 30 runs in the first half against the Broncos like you saw tonight, I am still expecting them to take the pressure off of Jalen Hurts instead of, again, going to a Buddy Ryan offense where you say to your quarterback, hey, you know what, go out there and make me a play, and that'll be my offense. Instead of doing that, help him out a little bit. Take some of the pressure off his shoulders. Take the workload off of his shoulders. Because here's what I have noticed over the last couple of games in particular. Jalen Hurts, without all the weight of the world on his shoulders, can actually make you a couple of plays. Can make you a couple plays downfield as well. No better example of that than what you saw in the fourth quarter in tonight's game. So why not use that going forward? True, you're not going to continuously run the football, and you're not going to have Boston Scott and Jordan Howard have the same success, or Kenny Gainwell in the game as much as you saw him tonight. But still taking that workload and that decision-making away from Jalen Hurts, and not just relying on RPOs, but putting him under center, getting him into the flow of the game, and making sure you're still throwing the ball occasionally. You can still do a lot of that, just like we said against the Lions. Sure, it's the Lions, but there's a lot of the same philosophies you can take from that game and apply going forward. They did that tonight, and their offense had success doing it. Defense still needs to come around, because I didn't see a lot of that. But when it comes to everything else, you can take a lot of these philosophies you've been using over the last 2 weeks, still apply it against the Broncos. Because I think what you did, if nothing else, other than just going 1-1 over these last two games, you also, I think, discovered the best way to get Jalen Hurts active throughout a game and make sure that he is not trying to do everything for your offense. That's something I think you can copy and paste over the last 2 weeks and still apply it to the Broncos.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm sure as we continue down the road of this season, we're going to have the same conversation again, unfortunately, about a Jonathan Gannon defense. Offensively, I think Nick is finally getting it in terms of what the strength of this team is, which is their front five and running the football and pounding the ball 3 to 5 yards at a crack. I like that. And I think what a severe weakness of this defense is, especially, again, against better competition, you're going to show them too much respect. And they are going to disrespect you by taking advantage of everything that you give them. Okay? You don't have to play long ball to be successful in the National Football League. You can dink and dunk your way up and down the field all night long, and if nobody can stop you, you don't need to throw a long ball, because you're moving the ball, you're controlling the clock, you're putting points on the board. and you're playing your game instead of playing your opponent's game.
Gotcha. When we come back, we're going to focus in on, I guess, are we taking or awarding game balls? I guess we'll decide. It'll be up to you guys, whatever you want to do. That's when we come back, but I do want to tell you we're exclusively presented by Ocean Casino Resort. Go for the live show. Go for the win. We'll wrap things up on live post-game show when we return.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that. Holy shit.
The glass is for cocktails, right?
It's for this, 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 and that.
Is the length of the glass equal to your...
You betcha.
But is it made out of...
Glass?
Yeah, okay, but is the rip...
Smooth?
Will you stop doing...
That?
I'm the professional here.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. 1 free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. All from the company that's highly awarded. 0 carbs, 0 sugar, and deliciously tasting vodka. So good, it just disappears.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
The live postgame show is powered by IBEW Local 98.
Welcome back, live post-game show presented by Stateside Vodka, fueled by Stateside Vodka, statesidevodka.com. See the scroll below. Use code JAKIB, that's JAKB, K-I-B, JAKIB, ladies and gentlemen, for 15% off a 1-liter bottle. Go to statesidevodka.com. Devin, real quick, before we get to our game balls, taking away or awarding, you did see something. I believe our friend of the show, Andy, tweeted us in something pretty good here. I wanted to make sure we get to.
Yes.
In a game that defense did not look great and look gassed, why did they look so flat and already beat in this game? Is that the play calling? I think a lot of that has to do with play calling because it's been the one consistent thing. Avonte Maddox has played really well this season. Him going out early in this game, then coming back with the injury certainly hurt the Eagles. But overall, you saw guys like throughout this season, early on, we mentioned Javon Hargrave, for instance, had a great start to the season. That's gone away. Fletcher Cox has struggled all season long. Why all of a sudden under Jonathan Gannon and his defense? Darius Slay, up until tonight, he was there to make plays. Unfortunately, he didn't make the plays tonight. But overall, I still look at a defensive coordinator that is not maximizing, not even a high amount of talent that's on this defense, I get, but a defensive coordinator that's not maximizing even what you have right now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
Andy, thank
the
you for that tweet.
Part. Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't think the defense looked that gassed tonight. Like, there have been games where I'm like, oh my God, get them off the field. But I didn't think that was the case. But I agree. It definitely just lack of Gannon utilizing his defensive weapons there.
Gunnar, they look gassed to you?
Yeah, look at the Chargers scoring drive. Some of the drives, 12, 14, 15 plays. That's any defense. You keep them on the field that long, you're going to be winded, especially when you're chasing pass catchers all over the field. You're going to be winded, So yeah, it does get to you after a while. Now, the way to get your breath back is to have your offense sustain drives away. Yeah. The Eagles' offense did sustain drives and answer score for score to keep them in a game. But yeah, they're going to get winded. That's only the human element of the game itself. But in this particular case, I think your defense is a product of your coordinator, and I think the coordinator plays scared in some ways. He plays scared. They're so concerned about not giving up the deep play that it's affecting their ability to do certain things and to play certain games within the structure of a defensive scheme. And coordinators, they pick up on these little tendencies, and they talk, and the message is passed around. Here's where you attack on this team. Here's what you can don't go this way on this particular team. And that's offensive and defensive football. It's a small fraternity. It happens. Now, you've got to basically change the perception of way people look at you. And unless you change that perception, they're still going to continue to disrespect you every week you step on a football field. It's basic element.
Every single time. Let's get into it with our game balls, ladies and gentlemen. What do you got? What do you like? We're gonna award them. We're gonna take them away. Devin, what do you want to do this week?
I'm gonna award one.
Okay.
And I feel very confident about this one. I'm gonna give it to Devonta Smith. I thought that he had his best game. Not that he's had any horrible games, but best game so far as a pro football player. He's on pace to hit 1,000 receiving yards this season. I just was happy to see Devonta Smith do what we drafted Devonta Smith to do this game.
There we go. All right, I'll take that. Gunnar, what do you like?
I'm going to give it to Nick Sirianni for staying committed to the running game. They've run the ball 85 times now the last 2 games. The running game kept them in this game and could have possibly helped them pull out a game had they gotten the ball one more time. So the fact that he didn't get away from the running game in a game of this magnitude, I'm going to give it to Sirianni for showing us that he can stay committed to the run.
Look at us being all positive and optimistic. It's beautiful. I'm going to ruin that. I'm going to take away every game ball possible from Jonathan Gannon. Because to have a mindset of you guys just start making plays and we'll just be here and hope you make a mistake is the exact opposite mindset that you would want from any defensive coordinator ever. At least Jim Schwartz, who didn't blitz, so we're used to that idea. At least Jim Schwartz knew how to maximize the talent he had on the defensive line. These guys you now heard from not just Fletcher Cox, but also Javon Hargrave. Yeah, I don't know what this guy's doing. Anytime you defer to the defensive coordinator or the play caller on any side of the football, you're saying, I don't know what to tell you guys. I'd love to be more aggressive, but I'm just kind of supposed to stay here and man my one battle station. That's not a good
I don't
sign.
get fined.
Exactly. So anytime you hear that from now 2 separate players that have had pretty good careers up until they got under Jonathan Gannon, you got to listen to that. So I think Jonathan Gannon definitely take one away from. However, I will join you in this barrage of positivity to end the show. I will say this. Jalen Hurts, more power in the world to you, my friend. You were called upon to make plays, put the team on the back in your fourth quarter, on your back in the fourth quarter yet again this season, and you rose to the occasion. I agree wholeheartedly with John McMullen, what he told us after the game, which was that was the best drive they could have put together so far this season, and they did it. Jalen Hurts made big throws on the drive, made big runs on the drive. Sirianni, certainly great play calling on that by keeping things balanced, sticking with what worked. But mainly, I look at Jalen Hurts because, Carson Wentz was under pressure, taking over for Nick Foles after he had just won a Super Bowl. I get that. Jalen Hurts is playing for his football life and career, knowing that he's got 3 first-round picks competing with him going into next season, most likely. So when he gets opportunities to put up numbers and produce and actually get results like he did tonight in terms of that one drive, that's the drive that'll look at Jalen Hurts and say, you get a game ball tonight, my friend. So that's where I'll end it. On all that positivity. It's almost sickening how positive I can be. I love it.
It's like a new mark. It's like you drank one of those statesides while we were in commercial. I don't know.
Is that how it happened?
I wouldn't put it past them.
No, I'll be really concerned when Mark gives a game ball to Nick Sirianni. I feel like you are like Nick Sirianni hater number one. So when that happens, then I'm going to do like a welfare check on you.
I will say the Nick Sirianni haters, like hater number one, those were the people that hated the rock, paper, scissors. I at least love the rock, paper, scissors. The flower thing.
The press conference, any press conference moment, not a fan of.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much after. Yeah, I'm good on everything else. Guys, that's the show today. Hopefully we're able to have some fun after a tough Eagles loss, obviously. I will say, just to end it, this is exactly the score I predicted and the outcome, unfortunately. So there you go. Devin, a pleasure as always. Derek Gunn, a pleasure as always. Thanks everyone that watched us on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel as well as 6abc.com. We'll be back with you guys again, hopefully this time after an Eagles win coming up a week from today. Thanks so much for joining us here on the live postgame show.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messon Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messon Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Basketball is part of how we grew up in this city, and every morning, IBEW Local 98 members take their best shot building this city, rescuing our community from decay, and inspiring the young men and women of the region to take pride in who we are, like the Hawks who will never die. Local 98 members love tradition. John Doherty, business manager of Local 98, says it this way: the best way not to forget where you come from is to never leave.
Go for the midnight dares. Go for the game. Go for the hits. Go for the fans. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.